Time for a new series that hopefully won't get canceled. They were reviewing Shout. So, Shout here is what's considered to be DEVO's most divisive album. It's basically what killed their career, if you don't know. So, let me go into the story there. So, to know the story, you have to know the band members. So, first there's the two frontmen, Mark and Jerry. Then you have their brothers, Bob and Bob. And then you have Alan Myers, the drummer. He's the most important part of the story. So, starting with their album New Traditionalists, they started using a drum machine. Specifically the Linn LM1. You can mainly hear on the song The Super Thing. But you can hear it on other songs too, including Beautiful World, their most famous song from that album. And they continued with the next album, Oh No, It's DEVO, and fully embraced drum machines on this album here. Not only that, but the dreaded Fairlight CMI made its first appearance on this album. The Fairlight CMI has sort of become a evil presence among DEVO fans because it basically ended their career because of this album. And yeah, it was a digital sampling synthesizer you'd hook up to a computer monitor and sample whatever, but it also had a bunch of presets. Now, for the most part, it's original samples that they made, but there are some default ones, mainly, like most notably, Pwang. Play here right now. Pwang was used on a lot of songs, mainly Puppet Boy, the most famous song from this album, thanks to TikTok. Anyway, so that is basically why this album has left such a bad taste in people's mouth. Because it made Alan leave. It also made Warner Bros. Drop DEVO from their label. And they got in a lawsuit with the Jimi Hendrix estate over their cover of Are You Experienced? Mainly because of the music video, which we'll get to when I cover that song. So what I have here is the Infinite Zero release. This cost me $68. So you can tell I like this album if I spent that much money on it. So on the front here we got Timothy Leary's son. I don't know why he's there. And on the back is Bob Mothersbaugh's daughter. It's according to DEVO themselves. They had a commentary track for all their music videos on, grab it here, I have it, The Complete Truth About De-Evolution, their DVD. Are You Experienced is not on the DVD, it's on the Laserdisc only, but if you want, you can see the commentary on YouTube, which was helpful because I do not have any Laserdiscs. Because who the hell has Laserdiscs? Yeah, so that's where I got the source from. So, enough rambling. Let's get on with the tracks here. And really quick, I will be mentioning Growing Pains too. It's a bonus track released on this version specifically. There is also an easy listening version of Shout. There's actually two easy listening versions of Shout, the song, you know, the title track. But I will not be touching on that because I kind of want to do a review of the easy listening stuff on its own. And even though they're not on the original release, I do want to include the other version of Shout and the Human Rocket, which I actually uploaded here because they're really hard to find. So if you want good quality rips of those two, there you go. They're both from MP3s, so... Anyway, let's start with the first track, Shout. Now, Shout is an interesting track. It is the first track. It's also the title track, obviously. And it's not bad. I personally like it, although I did show it to my friend Joe, who you may recognize from a few of my videos, mainly Dub and Terry's and those Siri videos. Yeah. I remember showing him it. He described it as sounding very cheap. And I think that's a good analysis. It is pretty cheap sounding because of the Fairlight. It actually does have a default Fairlight sample called Praise BRS, which is a trumpet sound. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it, so I'll just put it there, or wherever. And yeah, it's used throughout the whole song, mainly in the opening trumpets. So, it's a pretty decent track, though. It's nothing, like, amazing, but I kind of like it. The Satisfied Mind has our first appearance of Pwang, which I've mentioned before. It's used on, I think, 3 tracks in this, along with a few on Recombo DNA, which I may or may not review in the future. I don't know. It's mainly demos, so it's kind of hard to judge it as a full album. Satisfied Mind is also pretty decent. I don't like it as much as Shout. It's a little bland. It's just kind of, you know... I mainly like the playing. I do really like the playing sound, even though it's overused. It just sounds very... I don't know how to describe it. It just sounds very unique. I like it. But even then, it's only really used in the opening, so... It's an alright track. Don't Rescue Me is what I believe to be the worst track on this album. It's just kind of boring. It's really slow. There isn't really much about it that's unique, except I kind of like the chorus, but in terms of a song, it's just kind of not much to say about it. I watched as her fingers drew a perfect line in space. I watched as she looked on through into another place. Okay, this is my biggest defense when it comes to this album. The Fourth Dimension is a masterpiece. I don't care what anyone says. It's got to be like up there with some of their best tracks. So this song, a lot of the songs on this album, it's kind of hard to decipher the meaning of them. Now, Fourth Dimension, I actually do know what it's about. So I mentioned Jerry, or Gerald V. Caselli is his full name. The song is about his girlfriend, or his ex-girlfriend, who came out as a lesbian and left him. So he made a song about her going to the fourth dimension, which is interesting. I'd say the biggest thing to note about this song is it samples Day Tripper by the Beatles. I think it also samples a song by the Monkees. I forgot which one though. I don't know the Monkees that well. Or the Beatles. Come at me, hate comments. Anyway. It's a really good song though. The opening is kind of... When I first heard it, I didn't really like the opening. You know, it was really slow. I was kind of like, yeah, I don't like this track. Then I heard the whole thing. I'm like, I'm an idiot for not listening to this whole track. I also like how it's the 4th track. That's pretty clever. Overall, this is definitely the best track on the album. And I wish it got more recognition, but sadly, a certain other song on this album gets more recognition, which isn't as great. So let's move on.
Let's run. Oh, it's sure to chase us down. Well, come on.
Come On is, I don't know, it's another one I don't really care about that much. It's basically the same as what I thought about Don't Rescue Me, except it's a little better because it's more fast-paced. It's got some cool vocal sounds in it, but I don't know. It's just kind of generic. It's like, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just not that great. It's nothing memorable or good. I don't know. It's just not that great.
If you smell the smoke, you don't need to be told what you've got to do. Yet there's a certain breed, somewhere in between, they'd rather take a vote.
Here to Go is a really good song. This is definitely, I think this is a single actually. This and Are You Experienced were the singles for this album, and I'd say those are pretty good picks, although I kind of wish Fourth Dimension was also a single. That would have probably gotten more people to buy the album, but Here to Go is really good. So, it's mainly this guitar that plays throughout. There are these weird vocal Fairlight sounds that are kind of annoying at times. But the actual song is really good. It's definitely one of the best tracks on the album. And there is a remix of it that's on the Greatest Hits album from 1995. The remix sucks. It's just not good. It's called the Go Mix, and it's just not as good. No, listen to the original. It's way better. It's, I don't know. I'm not really great at describing songs or deciphering their meaning. It talks about us being here to go. I guess. I mean, I'm probably not qualified to do album reviews, but I like albums, so I'm going to do it anyway. And, I don't know, it's a really good track. I don't know what else to say.
People get away with things they don't mean to. A jurisdiction of love. Enough's not enough when love gets rough. A jurisdiction of love.
Jurisdiction of Love is probably the second best track on this album. It starts with this really cool robot sound, as I'll describe it. It's not a default Fairlight sample from what I know. I have looked through all the samples. It's not one of them. It is really cool, though. So it starts out with this kind of robotic sound, which I actually sampled in one of my songs, which I'll play right now. I hope you enjoyed that. Follow my Bandcamp. Enough self-promo anyway. The rest of the song is really good. It's very fast-paced. It's kind of got this mechanical sound to it. And from what I remember of the song, it's just sort of about how love takes over your mind. I guess, again, I'm not the greatest at deciphering songs, but from what I can tell, it's sort of how, you know, love can, you know, make you do things, bad things, stuff like that. It does, you know, in the lyrics, it does specifically say that. So, yeah, and it also has another Fairlight sample, Kodo and Kodo Bend. Kodo Bend was actually used in an easy listening track, Time Out for Fun, which is a track from Oh No It's DEVO, but musicified. It also uses a sitar sound, but again, we'll get to that when I review that album. So overall, like, Jurisdiction of Love is a great song.
Boy, it's the little things that count. Little problems, little minds, little points of view. Boy, it's the little things add up. Getting bigger, pull the trigger, little things like you.
Here we go. This is the big one. Puppet Boy. So, from my understanding, it got popular on TikTok. I do not use TikTok. I don't like it, but from what I understand, it started with some game called Deltarune. I don't know what it is. It's a game, I guess. And it had to do with a character who was based on email spams or something. And people thought it was his theme song. I don't know. But apparently it's popular on TikTok. That's nice. So, anyway, that is the most popular song of the album. It's not the best, obviously. Fourth Dimension is the best. I've already made my statement, but Puppet Boy is actually pretty good. There are some parts that are kind of annoying, you know, but so it's a pretty decent track. It does have the most playing of any of the tracks on here, specifically in the most famous part of the song, which I'll play right now. Now, as for the message of the song, I guess it's about an abusive relationship, you know? Not about a literal puppet. It's, you know, it's pretty interesting. I know some people say it might be about I'm not going to say the word, predator. Put it like that. Yeah, it might be about that. Something like that. You know, with DEVO, it's kind of hard to understand their messages. They get kind of deep sometimes. Especially if you listen to their commentary tracks. I was kind of like just lost with some of it. You know, their messages can get pretty deep in there, you know. But overall, Puppet Boy is a decent track, I guess. Not deserving of the most famous track on this album. No, Fourth Dimension deserves all the glory that it does not have. It needs glory. It needs love. So, Puppet Boy is just kind of okay.
Please, 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 no need to be so cruel. Please, 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 don't treat me like a fool. If you love me, you would leave me time to be alone.
Now, Please Please is alright, I guess. I kind of like the opening. It reminds me of Sonic CD of all things. And it's a pretty decent track. I guess it's about someone, you know, telling a girl to, you know, make sure she tells him that it's over, I guess. It's nothing too deep. It's just another love song. And it's just kind of generic. I like it, but it's mainly for that opening. I also kind of like the weird robot scat singing, which I'll play right now. So, overall, it's okay.
But first, are you experienced? Well, have you ever been experienced? Well, I have.
Are You Experienced? Now, this is their cover of Jimi Hendrix's song. Now I'm going to talk about the controversy first. So they made a music video for the song. And in the music video, they have a scene where Jimi Hendrix bursts out of his grave and plays guitar for hippies. Now, it's a little bit weird. And his lawyers, his estate, did not like it, so they forced DEVO to remove it from their DVD and just sort of wipe it from existence. Which thankfully they didn't, because it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. And yeah, it's just, that's basically what happened. I know Jerry made a statement talking about how the people at his estate are just lawyers who just want money. And there were actual, like, musical talent who liked the song and that little scene of him coming out of the grave. I do kind of see where his lawyers are coming from, though. It is a little weird, but at the same time, I hate censorship. Censorship is terrible. And it's the reason why this site is falling apart. But anyway, back to the actual song. It's got this kind of cool synth sound, which you may recognize from Too Much Paranoias, the worst song from their first album, Fight Me. Anyway. So it opens with that, and it sort of gets sort of psychedelic, I guess I could describe it. It's a very surreal sounding song, and it fits since, you know, it's a Jimi Hendrix cover. He was during the hippie era, so it works. I like that kind of psychedelic, you know, surreal feel to the song. It's got these really cool drums throughout. It's got this really trippy guitar solo. The whole song is really good. It definitely, like every other cover they've done, it surpasses the original. I don't know how they do it. Every cover DEVO does seems to always be better than the original. It's honestly just amazing how they're able to do that. But yeah, so our experience is really good. Now, Growing Pains is a bonus track. It is not on the original release. I believe it was a B-side. I don't know too much about vinyl. I'm not collecting vinyl. It's kind of stupid to collect vinyl, in my opinion. But Growing Pains is really good. So it has a lot of samples you may have heard in other songs. I recognize the keyboard thing from Fourth Dimension, the guitar from Here to Go, some of the vocal sounds. And there is a default Fairlight sample, which I believe is just called Scream. And it's the worst part of the song. I think it could have done without the screaming sound effects, but at the same time, it's kind of like Peekaboo from Oh No It's DEVO, where the annoying part of the song, the song kind of feel weird without it. Peekaboo having that evil laugh that I'm pretty sure was Jerry. Anyways, Growing Pains is actually a really good song. Again, the message is always kind of lost on me with songs. There are a few where I can understand it, but DEVO is really hard to decipher the meaning unless you look it up. But it is a really good track. And I'm glad I managed to pick up this copy of the album, because apparently it's never been listed on eBay before unless unless it was before this year or something. So I looked by sold items. All of them are the original release of Shout, not this deluxe one. So, yeah, I was very lucky to come across this.
Not necessarily beautiful, but mutated.
And that concludes my review of Shout. Is it as bad as people say? Hell no. This is actually a pretty good album. Now, I will say, listening to the whole thing, you know, the whole way through, it is a little bit repetitive since every song has that distinct sound to it. The distinct sound being the Fairlight. But it is a really good album. And it doesn't deserve all the hate. Now, if you don't want to listen to the whole album, just want to listen to a few tracks, sort of ease yourself in, I'd listen to, obviously, Fourth Dimension. Maybe the title track. The title track gives you an idea of the Fairlight, I guess. Here to Go, Jurisdiction of Love, Puppet Boy, and Are You Experienced, I'd say, are the ones you should listen to. And Growing Pains, I guess, although it's not technically a track on the album. It's a B-side that they put in this version. But I still wanted to talk about it because I really like the track. So, overall ranking for this album, I'd give a 7 out of 10. It's definitely underrated, but at the same time, I can see why people don't like it. I, however, really do like it, and it has Fourth Dimension, which is actually my favorite DEVO song in general. That wraps up my first album review. If you want to see more of these, comment down below. My next album will be one by my other favorite band, who you may know. Anyway, that will be out at some point, probably soon. This is a really easy video to make, so I can probably pump these out a few times a week. So, yeah, I will see you boys in the good of that.
This is to show you what happens if you do try and put it in the oven. Just a second. Let's 450 degrees. Ready?
So if you put it in the oven, you'll come over and stomp it?